We are today the blab of the Wisdom Factory. We are doing a relationship series, and for today we had planned a panel discussion, and it would all have been on Google Hangouts, and afterwards we have the blabs normally. But today we have a panel of two Martins, both dressed in red, and we have to figure out how to distinguish them. Oh, Martin with earphones and Martin without. And so we want to discuss a little bit their expertise. Both are integral.
Oh, yes, they are.
Practitioners. This is a book from Martin. It's a little bit ago. You have written other books in the meantime.
It's a while ago. I was young then.
Yeah, you were young then, and you were really quite into integral then, while now you are integrally informed, but in the social media. And this is the book of the other Martin, Integral Relationships, with which he has a big success. And he has already done the first session with us, where we talked about falling in love with someone good for you. So today I wanted to try out if we can make a sort of an experiment, falling in love, wanting to have relationships. Often there are dating sites, but we don't really, want to talk about that. But how can we use social media? How can be the intimate relationship connected with social media? And to start with, we have a story, because we are now together for 4 years and 4 months, and we met on Facebook. So we are the first success story
that we know of.
There are many of them.
We could just claim it. This is the internet. We can say anything we want. Yeah. We were the first. Yes.
Yeah. So I know, Martin, you have to go earlier, but I still would like to begin with Martin, and ask him, in your concept of falling in love and guiding relationships, how far is there included social media?
I don't.
Well, on to the other Martin.
You got me there. I know a lot about internet dating, but not about using social media.
Shall I start then?
Yeah, please. Save me.
I'll save you, Martin. Yeah, I'll save you now. Okay. So I think that social has become social. It's really the internet is what we're talking about, is a way for people to connect. And the question then becomes, if you go to a particular platform, do you feel a connection with that person? Can you then inform yourself of the things that you're looking for very often, and then play that in your mind? Because the process of falling in love requires you to kind of go over, how wonderful they are, and look what they're into, and I would like to be into that, or you do that thing. So so many different platforms allow you to find people that you potentially can connect with. And I think that's a way of looking at it, which is a bit like going to a coffee shop, or a bit like meeting somebody, that's one of your neighbors. So I don't think necessarily the medium is the thing. It's more to do with how people connect and what happens during that process of falling in love, which is a perfect thing to hand back to Martin now, and you can pick up. See?
Yeah. I mean, for me, having personal experiences around something, in addition to theoretical knowledge, is very important. And I think I've never been asked on the traditional, like Facebook, and other.
There's still time, Martin. We've got loads of people watching. Listen.
Social media, And I don't know if that's if that's particular related to me, or maybe kind of an American thing where, in other words, are like coming on to women, right? Like writing someone, I saw you're single and I'm interested in you. If that is already kind of like not politically correct, so like a misuse of Facebook, or I don't know, that's my main platform as far as social media is concerned. And I don't know what your experience is around that, Martin.
I can tell you something. I get a lot of requests, contact requests of officer, marshal or something, soldiers, high soldiers. They say they are.
They don't call me. I don't know. Man.
They have contact requests. And then what I can do, I can go, I'm mainly on Google Plus and not on Facebook. I can go to their About page. I can look who is that person? And when there is nothing written, I just block them. I say, oh no, there is somebody looking, or even when they say, you have such a nice face or something, I immediately block them out, and I won't get any message anymore.
Well, I have a friendship. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. And what I think on social media, you wouldn't do that if you really want a partner, and let's say a partner of a certain quality. You would first connect, as we did, on a topic. You know, for instance, go to Blab and see there is a topic I'm interested in. Oh, let's see who is there, and then how do you say it? Follow, not circle. Circle is Google Plus speech. Follow them and see when they show up again, and maybe make comments to each other, and then see what is there about page. Or here on Blab is not much written, but on Twitter, and you look around and see, is this when you see that they share something but you are interested in, then you go and see, is there somebody I would be interested in? What would you say, Martin? Martin,
just come back, and I'm going to ask Martin a question then. So I would say that social media allows you to find people that you relate to. You can then engage with them the way that you said, or whether it's +1 in their content, them getting a message and understanding that you're paying attention to them, and then you look at connecting. And I think that so often you get together in real life. I think that's the big bridge, is that really this is a shortcut to building trust that allows you to get to know somebody well enough that you go, do you know what, I'd meet. And it doesn't matter if it's an intimate relationship or whether it's a business relationship, it still allows you to connect. And we've got so many different platforms to do that with. But what I was going to come around and ask Martin, what would you say an integral relationship looks like? In order, because we're talking around that. So how would we see one if we tripped across it?
If we would see a couple that's in an integral relationship, or
I'm going to leave it as open as you want. Yeah. What is an integral relationship?
Well, it's very generally, I would say that there's two ways to look at that. Of course, you can look through the integral lens at any relationship, even if the couple is not integrally informed or not at an integral level of development. Right, so that's looking at a relationship through the integral lens. And
that's what I was looking at, is for people watching that may not know integral, what would it look like? How would you see?
This is always this big complicated question, right? That's always, where do you start, right? I mean, in essence, for me, it is that the relationship is balanced and harmonized in what Ken Wilber calls the 4 quadrants, so that there is intimacy on an emotional interior level, right, mind level, shared values, that their emotional maturity is similar, and there's an open exchange there, and then there is compatibility on the exterior level, on the physical body, and the sexual. In physical abilities, at least, to share certain activities together, and also compatibility in the social area, which is lifestyle and money and education and not education, how you live
and how big the car is. Yeah,
perfect.
and preferences around that, and very often we see relationships where. There's the typical exchange for the guy has the house and the big car, and the woman has the sexy body, right? So like the trophy wife, and these things, or people reduce relationships just to do a lot of interior work, right? We're together to awaken together or to share our feelings, but we're not, having many other things in common. So the relationships become somewhat lopsided. I shy a little bit away to say, or that you really have to be integrally informed in order to have an integral relationship. But obviously, there's millions of couples out there who probably on the integral level have an integral relationship and never heard about the word. But obviously, the next step or another way would be that at least one partner is integrally informed, and then. In addition to these 4 areas that I just mentioned, the interior and the V space and the body and the social, is that integral couple typically balance feminine and masculine polarities relatively well. And the male and the female are both allowed and know how to embody masculine and feminine qualities, and they find a way to sort of like take turns in balancing and harmonizing that, so the male is not constantly pushed into the masculine role and the female constantly into the feminine role. And then when there is a switch and the other partner cannot go to the other side, right, then you get this, what David Data often describes, that when the man becomes too feminine, then the woman cannot go over to her masculine in a conscious way. She feels sort of like pushed over there, but it makes her feel very uncomfortable because she feels she can no longer trust her partner. And that balancing and harmonizing of feminine and masculine polarities can really happen in each of the 4 quadrants. So unlike Ken, right, to dive a little in, who just says, that all the 4 quadrants move into the feminine or masculine, I think that can actually happen independently in each of the quadrants.
Yeah, and who doesn't know about Ken Wilber and integral theory, it is not as complicated as everybody thinks. And there is an easy book. It is called Integral Spirituality. No, how was it? The vision. The vision.
Integral vision, yeah.
Integral vision. That's the one. And it's with photos and graphs. And if you want to enter into it, I can say for my life, when I met this sort of seeing the world in these, what Martin said, the 4 quadrants, and also in the levels of development, for me it was, now I understand why all these things before you so how can that be, and you had a certain of idea, but the integral theory is sort of giving you the order or a structure where to put your
one thing I noticed about integral,
framework to operate from.
So you can this was the word I was missing.
Yourself, you can understand dynamics better. But I've got a question, if I can ask Martin. I want to go back to social media.
Yeah, me too.
Old-fashioned social media. Yeah. Pen pals, right? We're talking now, maybe, and we can take this 1930s, 1940s. People sending letters to each other. What would they be doing in the letters that would help the person connect with them? What? And I'm going to, is it that they disclose things about themselves? Is it that they state things about themselves? Because if you strip back the communication to pure words and maybe a time delay, that was an original form of social media. It was less right. So, what do you think about that? What's going on for people in the relationships on their side of it? How are they falling in love?
Do you think people fell in love through letters, or they fell in love first and then they exchanged letters?
I don't know. Maybe my little example would go for they've never met and they exchange letters. But it could be either. But it's like in social media, you exchange communication and you have more information. You have the person's photo, for instance, or
possibly yes,
a real picture. So when you add the layers of complexity to the communication, not just the words, we end up with what we've got now. And we've got moving pictures, and we can see if you're chatting and so on. But I just wonder if we strip it back down to absolute basics. Let's take transfer of emails now to somebody you haven't met. How would somebody connect with the other person?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I completely understand your question.
Yeah, but just make it answer.
As I said in our first conversation we had a few weeks ago, there's obviously the physical, sexual, biological falling in love part that's hormonal, and that's, I think, largely driven by visuals and also partly information. Specifically for women, it's more information about a man, and visuals for men, it's purely visuals. And of course,
we can fall in love only by good words. When we have in a letter wonderful words, we can already be.
Fortunately, I had some good words.
And so, that's one aspect, right? The physical, and then the other aspect is the psychological, and there's the standard sentence is that if someone had similar childhood experiences, and also the wounds that are associated with that, and develop different coping mechanisms, that creates an attraction.
And so that's the relate bit. You can relate to the person, even if you're not the same as they are now. You've still got a point of reference, which you can go, okay, I know you because of that thing.
Right. And if you then verbalize that, and if you're, I'm also into the love languages. I don't know if you're familiar with them. People supposedly have a primary and a second love language out of 5. And one is words of affirmation or the exchange of words. One is physical touch. One is spending quality time together. One is acts of service, doing things for the other person. And one is gifts. And so last night I had a conversation, about that. And I think if your primary love language, like mine, is words, then it's more likely you fall in love with someone if there is an exchange of words than if your love language, let's say your primary love language is touch and your secondary is quality time or gifts, right? Then that's much harder to exchange that through social media. So it would be interesting research, if you would have that, if people who connect mainly through letters and to words and through social media, what is their love language versus people who have a different love language.
Yeah. And
also I think Enneagram types, there's these instincts of the attraction type and the social type and the security type. So I think that has a lot to do also with typologies, how people would respond. Like I do a bit of online dating, and it's very interesting how some women say, I don't even have email exchange, I just want to meet, right? And other women say, oh, let's first get to know each other and exchange a few emails, and then we can talk on the phone, and then we meet. So there's really different styles, and I think that very often has to do with typology. And I still, I think I'm in kind of like a unique position, being sort of like kind of like a teacher, and I've, I'm very, very careful in making offers, or show interest to women outside dating platforms. And I still wonder a little bit why. I mean, I know you met through Facebook, and I don't want to discount that, but why use Facebook or other social media as a primary strategy to find a partner when there is an abundance of
I tell you
of website of dating websites.
I tell you.
Okay, tell me. Yes.
I did dating websites, and there came only very strange people, and from Italy. And when somebody from outside, somebody in America came also, but then I should have gone to America. No, who goes there? I live in the real flat, hilly country. There's nobody around me and nobody where to go. And, I have, and I was sure I didn't want any more in Italian. So I'm right in the middle of Italy. So where should I meet a person? And I sort of thought, okay, boop. And then we met on Facebook, but not because we wanted to meet, because we were talking about, I saw a thread and he was answering, I was answering. And I said, this is, again, guy stuff. And I entered in and said, women do it differently. And so we entered into a discussion.
It was a rich discussion.
And then afterwards, we you are in Italy, blah, blah, blah. And then it came like this. And after a while, we exchanged emails. And until we went on Skype, it took quite a while. And then I thought, oh, such an old guy. Oh, well, yeah, I'm old too. Okay. And then we had a wonderful relationship on Skype. And you can see so much of a person already when you have video.
But you didn't know how little money I had.
But it still sounds a little bit to me like, you're in a unique situation and we met on a safari somewhere, right? And now you say, wow, that's a really great strategy to go on safaris to meet someone, right? So I think
it's not safari. Facebook and Google and Blab, that's not safari. This is at the hand and the fingertips of everybody.
But all the research I looked at, if it comes even on into the research, very, very few couples meet through social media. there's still introduction to friends is number one, workplace is number two, dating websites is number three, and then there is everything else falls below the radar. So just because you met on Facebook, and had this unique experience, to kind of like say, oh, that's a really great strategy to find a partner, I question a little bit, quite frankly. And I think, and a friend of mine just, she was not really active on Facebook. I mean, she has a very attractive kind of sexy photo, and she said, oh, that sounds, I think I'm going to be more active on Facebook. And immediately, there was this onslaught of, hey, babe, what are you doing tonight? And, and so,
don't put a sexy photo in if you want a real partner.
I absolutely think, I'm not very active on Facebook communicating with people. If you're, some people spend hours a day and they have their Facebook network of friends, like-minded friends. I'm not saying that cannot potentially then lead to a partnership, but isn't, if your intention is just on Facebook to authentically connect with other people who are like-minded, and your primary goal is not really to find a partner, I mean that's certainly okay. But if you're somewhat strategic about finding or attracting a partner, I just really think there is better internet platforms out there to do that, where it's also completely politically correct, to approach people, because they're saying explicitly, I'm out there and I'm looking for a partner, and this is what I'm looking for. That's my take on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thinking perhaps it's a matter of definition here, because I would consider a dating site part of social media in a broad sense. It's very social. I mean,
I don't like dating sites because you are going there to pick somebody. So it's so directed. While when you connect, for instance, we are talking, and people are listening. And then if I was single and, they liked me, they might come again to watch it. And they might then say, oh, what you said then, I liked it. And I would add this, and we would enter into a discussion without thinking that must become my partner or might become my partner. So in dating sites, it's so how do you say, so functional to find a partner. Well, here you have all the Martin, I think you will agree that now with these means, with video, which are ever more, even Facebook has now video, seems to be, that we can really have a different connection. It's not written. And on dating sites, you have a picture, and normally people put themselves in a picture, and then you see them in real life and you think, oops, who is that? So I don't want to convince you, just to invite you to think that the times are changing so quickly.
I think that the key thing that you said, Martin.
What do you agree with, Martin?
I don't know. There's a little time lag. Sorry if I'm speaking over. I think you're absolutely spot on, and it's about intent. It's the intent. And I know people that will leverage social media for their relationship kind of intent, let's say. And it may not be they're looking for a life partner. You know what I mean? They may be looking for something a lot considerably shorter term. But if I just wheel us back in time a little bit, and hello, Christian, and hello, Aline, I'm sure we've got questions if you've got questions. Let's wheel back in time. 2001. There was a website in the UK, which is probably one of the first social media sites, which is called Friends Reunited. It was back in the year 2000. And what happened is people from university and people you went to school with were the only two social groups that you reconnected with, having, for me at that time, left university 5 years before. And I'd lived in Australia and I lived in Central America. So suddenly, social media, which is what it was, reconnected me with historic friends and historic ex-girlfriends, because I'd lost their phone number maybe, or, along the way, things changed 5 years. So we then come to, that's 2000. We then come to 2007, I think it is. And Facebook opens its doors to non-students. So it became a city-based network. And I was the first person that got onto that because I had some friends that were students at, like, working at Juice Bar, one was, and another one I met. And they said, you've got to try this Facebook thing. And I was like, I'm not sure. And I remember going on that. And I told my friends at the time, and they said, you sad and lonely person, what is wrong with you going on this Facebook thing? Within a year, 2 years, everybody starts to go on, and they realize it's about connecting with people in a location. And then what happened was interesting. I found what was interesting was you met people in real life, and what you'd say to them was, are you on Facebook? That was the piece that was there. And what's happened over the time is, say, my social graph on Facebook I removed all barriers. So I'm the same person on all platforms. You can find me everywhere. Because social media became business orientated much, much more for me because of the nature of the connections. I travel all over the world. And so I took all of the walls down. Now, coming back to intent. However, if I have intent to change the nature of relationship that I'm having with somebody in social media, I know the steps that I have to spend a little bit more time. Maybe I flirt a tiny little bit, and that will escalate the nature of relationship exactly as it would in real life. Makes no difference. And what they will then do is they'll start to go, and they'll start to have a feeling and start to think about, and then every time I appear, the process happens that they then see that they are getting into a relationship. Now, I tend to shut everything down, to be honest, because it's about broad network business. I'd rather have a relationship in real life than have one through Skype. I've done that sort of thing in the past. So I know what I'm doing. However, a lot of people don't know what they're doing. So they end up in a relationship very quickly because the person receives their attention as being a signal of intent. And I think it's exactly the same process as in real life. But you've got to kind of bring the awareness to your activity because it's very easy to mislead sometimes. No. Thanks for all the props. Props. So that little hands up. Has anyone got any questions for Martin? I'm leaving it.
Martin, I could imagine that you write an appendix to your book and see what has changed since you wrote it, because I think in social media has changed really a lot. Only last year, with Periscope, with this Blab thing, before Hangouts, and now Facebook, and whatever these other possibilities are of connecting, I think it will really give a much bigger possibility than, for instance, when I met on a dating site and he lived about an hour away and we met there somewhere at coffee and it was so awkward. And, here we have a possibility to see each other in real life, in sort of real life. So I want to say, for me, I'm excited about it.
I want to briefly say two things I think that are important to consider, and in any kind of internet dating situation. One is that in the past we only knew so many people before the internet platform existed, right? I mean, maybe we had access to 100 people or 200 people or so, or maybe even 1,000 people, and we knew who was in a relationship. So there was a certain sense of scarcity. Right? We realized, okay, these people are not interested in me. I already kind of checked. These are in a relationship, and there is 10 or 20 possibilities for a relationship. And we know from psychology that the fewer choices we give people, it's mainly from sales, right? If you show somebody a box with 50 pralines, or what are they called, candies, different ones, people have a much harder time to choose than if there are only 5. And even after they chose one, they're unhappier with their choice when they had 50 than when they only had 5. And so the internet created this sort of like sense of abundance, and it becomes almost impossible to choose because there is all these possibilities. And then even if we engage with someone, we always have this underlying feeling or most people do, maybe there would have been somebody better out there. So that's just like one thing to be aware of. And the other thing is that from an integral perspective, when we chose a partner in the past before the internet in our social environment, they were most likely somewhat at the same level of consciousness development as we were, and shared certain interests. So we met somebody in a church or in an activity group or at work or at a university. And it was just like, we didn't even have to think about other social people in other social stratas or other interest groups and things like that, because we typically didn't even really meet them. And that has all fallen away. This automatic, aligning of values has fallen away in internet dating. And I think if we take an integral approach to social media or internet dating, whatever we want to call it, and we ask the right questions to find out, what we call the cosmic address. So where is a person located in the integral map, and is that person compatible with me? Then it's a very effective tool. And if we don't have that capability to do internet or social media dating through an integral lens, then we're sort of lost in the forest, and we cannot really interpret the content of the text, the profile that people wrote, and through an integral lens, and we're not able to ask the right questions because we don't, and then interpret the answers in order to, locate them in this integral map. So these are two aspects I think that are really, really important to understand. Is one thing, this huge abundance of people and how that psychologically affects us in having a much harder time to make a choice. And then when we made a choice, that in the back of our minds, we tend more to think, there were 50,000 other people or 1 million other people out there. Maybe I made the wrong choice. In the past, we didn't have these feelings. And B, we're just not, most people are not integrally informed, and they do not know how to pre-qualify potential people or people that they even go out with on a date or make a phone call. So that's my 2 cents on that.
It's great challenges of a modern age, Martin.
Yes, so it's a huge advantage because we have access to so many people, right? It's a good thing. And the downside of it is the psychological, I don't know what we want to call it, dynamic of finding it harder and harder to choose. And I think that really contributes that there are so many singles out there, and that there is so much, short-term serial monogamy is this like, if things don't work out with this person, if there is a problem, it's just easier to go back online and find the next person than to work things out with my current partner. And granted, we very often, choose a person who's really not compatible with us on a value level, and think because we go by the photo and by shared interests. That's usually how far it goes. But
let me ask you, Martin. I was going to leave, but I'm going to ask you, and Heidi's dropped out. So, is there an aspect that the nature of relationships that people are having is evolving in its own right, and because of technology, and that in fact we are, and I'm just this is just a hypothesis, that we're trying to get the sort of relationship that we think we should have, because really, historically, relationships, people tend to stay together because they were stable family units for kids. That's that. If you look at the history of it, it makes sense that you've got parents, and because a woman gets pregnant, at that time she can't work, so she needs to be looked after. We can see that. I mean, we know that culturally, right? So, is it not okay to be serially monogamous? And I'm saying, I haven't thought this through, but as technology changes, we as animals change as well. And the one area we probably haven't discussed, I certainly haven't discussed with friends, is the nature of relationships. Business-wise, radically different. You know, and we have codification, we have allies, and we have our community members, and we have, you know, the network and all of this sort of stuff. We have the code, and yet relationships, because we're so vulnerable in some ways to it not working out, because we have feelings and they have feelings. You know, have we remapped it? Is it in need of a remap for a modern age?
Well, I mean, what came up for me is it's all about expectations. And so the first thing is if somebody really is capable and interested and willing to be in a long-term relationship, and that's the expectation, and the other partner goes like, oh yeah, well, I'll see how it goes, and as long as it's fun, and then I'll move on, then, you know, you don't have the same agreement or expectation for the relationship.
That's the word. It's agreement, isn't it? Yeah, and it is the expectations.
Yeah, expectation.
Do you need to do that at the front end? So, is that a pre-qualification?
You don't need to do that, but if you have the capability to say, I think we make good friends and lovers, but you know,
I've only just met you, Mark. It's okay. It's all right. Just a little joke. Just throwing a little joke.
I'll keep looking because I think you're not my long-term life partner. And then the other person says, yeah, that's perfectly fine. But how many people do that, right? And when you set this expectation and say, wow, you're my soulmate, and I think I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you, and let's, you know, move in that direction, and then, you know, problems come up in the relationship, and one or both people then say, oh, you know, these problems, if we would be soulmates and if we would be a perfect match, then these problems wouldn't start in the first place. So I keep looking.
Is there such a thing as a soulmate? And you can answer that as Paul Terry comes in.
Well, it depends on how you define soul. For me, our soul is the expression of an authentic purpose that's beyond our ego and our social and cultural conditioning. And if we find someone who shares that same purpose and passion in an equal but different way, then I think we have an experience of a soulmate. The other definition of a soulmate is that somebody can help you, so like take off the masks that prevent you from getting in touch with this, you know, what I call, for lack of a better word, authentic purpose in life. So that's more like what John Melwood calls a worthy opponent who says, you, Martin S., don't realize your full potential, and I see what your full potential is, and I don't let you get away with your egocentric crap, because I want you to fully awaken and realize your full potential. I love you so much that I do that for you, and you as my partner would do it for me, right? So that's sort of like more the green psychological spiritual definition of a soulmate. But once you then, you know, become more authentic, you know, authentic self or unique self or whatever, there's different ideas around that, and you find a partner who has a similar, you know, purpose, passion in life in an authentic or unique way, and you co-create with that person. This is what Barbara Marx Hubbard called supra-sex, right? This co-creation feels like having sex, but it's more, you know, more constantly available, not just an hour or two in the evening. So it depends a little bit on how you define soulmate. The old definition of soulmate,
an hour or two of sex in the evening. Mark, you should put that on your profile.
Yeah.
This is the promise I'm going to give you.
Of course, the
an hour or two sexy time every night. You put that. Okay. All I need is somebody, a woman who can put up with my jokes, I think, is pretty much what we have to do with.
Okay, I finished my train of thought on soulmates.
Doesn't get it.
So the old romantic idea. The old romantic idea of soulmate is, of course, somebody that you have no conflicts and everything is just rosy and great and wonderful till the end of your days. That's you know, as I already said, not my notion of soulmate. The John Melwood idea of that you have a partner who helps you to awaken and to really get to your unique or authentic self. Would be a definition. And then the second definition is that you found somebody who's already living their authentic, unique purpose, and you co-create with that person. So that was that. And if people type in questions, then I can answer those, I guess. Or you can share your opinions.
Yeah. They don't.
So Suzu wrote, I'd love to hear Martin's thoughts on that awkward getting to know you period where all there is seems to be a physical attraction and intuition. Paul, we cannot hear you. I don't know why. Again, I think, Suzu, that becoming clear about intention in a way is important. And of course, everybody knows, and I know that males are very attracted and very driven, to attract women who are physically very attractive. And again, coming back to our topic, social media, most people, Tinder being sort of like the last tool for that in a way, is where you just briefly look at a photo and you swipe left and right. So you go completely by looks, and women may, in addition, look a little bit like on what a guy writes and or ask certain questions, but it has really raised the bar that a lot of people do what I call dating outside their league, and get really frustrated because they get rejected a lot. And of course, attractive women, they're getting constantly approached by men and pursued online and probably also in person. And maybe some of them aren't really clear what they're looking for, and they cannot ask the pertinent questions, and so it all gets reduced to this physical attraction and certain superficial aspects of a relationship. And the other thing is that we also know that only about 10% of people fall in love at first sight. A lot of people need months and months to interacting with a person until they feel a more physical and emotional attraction. And also that all gets lost in or mostly lost in online and social media dating. So I don't know if that's any helpful. And I just come back to this idea that we should really, if we want to have a healthy long-term relationship, focus on our values, focus on our purpose, use, if we can, the integral lens to be able to identify a person who is at our level of development, and then transcend some of these primary fantasy things. I mean, is it really so important that a woman has a certain body shape and certain body features? Is it really so important that a man has a certain level of status and success or height or whatever the primary fantasy things are for women? And can we really refocus on sharing a purpose, doing some healing and growth work, and can a relationship be sustained because we have these shared values and worldviews and ability to balance and harmonize feminine masculine polarities, etc. There's a question: how soon do you notice criterions of consciousness level of lady you meet? I like these questions. What do you feel most passionate and concerned about? And then asking questions, and in my book in the back there are questions to ask for each of the 4 quadrants. So her interior, what is alive in you right now? What do you feel passionate about? What are your worldviews? Questions like that. Then intimacy questions. What would I know about you if I would really know you? I also like to ask people about their past relationships, even though some relationship experts say that's not appropriate. But I like to ask, what attracted you to your previous partners? Why did the relationship end? Who ended it? what did you learn from the ending, and what do you want to do different next time? That always gives me sort of like an indicator of if somebody is just repeating certain patterns, or if they're really learning from their previous relationships. And then there is obviously the physical questions around exercise and diet, and how do you keep your body healthy? And then there are the social questions, and in each of these 4 quadrants, or in these 4 areas, when you listen to the answers, you get really good clues at what is the highest level that somebody can operate from. And if I'm really interested in someone, and she's interested in me, I like to have these conversations depending on what is available in written form, or through by phone or Skype or something, before I even invest time in meeting that person. Now, there is also 2 strategies, and I think males maybe, or I think it's actually gender neutral. Some people say, why would I want to answer all these questions and do all these explorations if I have never met you? In German we say, wenn ich dich nicht riechen kann, if I don't like your smell, right? If I'm just not physically attracted. So let's first check if there is this kind of like chemistry, like as most people say in America or in English, and then let's answer all these questions. And other people say, well, why would I want to meet you and potentially fall in love, or spend the money and the energy if I know from the, if I can find out now if we're compatible, if we look at each other through an integral lens. And I think both aspects are valid, and it probably comes down to practicality and distance. I personally have a preference on not wasting anybody's time, and first have a little bit of a communication, which takes 15-20 minutes, to check in all in all these 4 areas, and the ability to balance and harmonize feminine, masculine polarities, and level of consciousness, and also compatibility of love languages. I check that if I can. And also I'm curious about the Enneagram type. And then, if there is no physical attraction, then maybe I made a new friend. And if there is some chemistry and physical attraction when we meet in person, then I know already that there is a foundation for the relationship.
Okay. Martin, can you see and hear us now?
Oh,
this is wonderful. We have been a little bit outside. Yeah, what I wanted to say, your book gives a good introduction into that. When you listen people speak in a certain way, you can determine on the way of how they speak and what they speak about. But I want to still come back to what we are doing here, to the video. When you see the person live, you see if there's, if they are arrogant or whatever. You can immediately have a certain impression which tells you, do I really want to spend time and energy into this person, or is there something which I really don't like at all?
Talking about body language, more or less.
Body language, yeah, and mimics, and the way of I'm doing a little bit theater here, things like that, and if you like it or if you don't like it,
and I try to be funny,
about body language. I think that has been somewhat overrated for a while. When we were in a lot of behavioralism and things, and I think like in spiral dynamics, or generally in philosophy, it's really important not only look at the behavior of a person, like just the simple, like somebody's crossing their arms, right? So like the new age response is, oh, this person is kind of closing off and protecting themselves or whatever, but this person may just be cold, right? So if we don't ask why somebody behaves a certain way or has certain manners or body language, then we can really be also, led astray, so to speak, and make assumptions that are actually not true.
That's clear. And whatever we get to learn at the beginning, we augment our insights and how the other people are. We can never see it in the first moment, not with words, not with body language, not with everything. But, often you have a certain first impression of people. And often you find out when you follow up that the first impression was right. I don't know depends how intuitive people are, some are more.
Question.
But there is here a question from Christine. Can you read that?
The proliferation of globalized digital knowledge sharing will breed less and less of a dependence on fulfillment through physical contact. In my vision, an integral relationship, and I elaborated on that in my first conversation that you can watch online, is that it's balanced and harmonized at the level of all 6 or 7 chakras. And so I think we get an imbalance, like the physical contact obviously would be, the first and the second chakra, specifically the second chakra. And I'm not an expert in medicine or anything, but I think there's probably enough evidence that the more connected and balanced and harmonized we are in the context of our relationships with others at each of the levels of the chakras, the healthier and the more fulfilled or whatever, more productive, more mature we will be. And so if people would, in my opinion, avoid physical contact and overcompensate, that through spending a lot of time online or in other ways of relating, then that would lead to an unbalanced development. And we see more and more of these compensation strategies, and I really don't want to diss any of them in any way, but I just joined the circling community here in Los Angeles, and I asked people why they go there, and they said, well, I have intimate conversations there that I don't have anywhere in my other life. And so I think it's great, that is so like as a practice field, and you can meet like-minded people. But it also really saddens me, coming from Northern California, where there's more access to to that in day-to-day life, that we have to create more and more of these sort of like substitute groups and platforms and things, because it seems at least that fewer and fewer people have these, healthy one-on-one relationships with a partner, if they have a partner. More and more people are single, and they don't have that in their day-to-day life. And then there's all these, sometimes you have to pay for it, or free compensation strategies where you drive, and, with all these things. It strikes me as a little bit odd, quite frankly.
I think.
I hope she comes in.
She's a long way away.
I admitted her. She is in Baku, and she found a person in America. Following your book and your instruction, if this is not a big success story.
It is. In Kazakhstan.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Dear Martin, I would like to say good big thank you, because I met 2 months ago because of your book from the site written there, Spiritual Singles. My wonderful man, Paul de Kroon, the same level I am.
Wonderful.
And I felt shy, and the desire to put lipstick straight away. I could see him in Skype first time. First second. Usually I do not. That was so strange. I think this is criteria sometimes for lady when she feels very erotically shy. Meeting this exact man, that seldom man. And your book and your work is incredibly important, because I would never met somebody here, because I am very open-minded and can communicate but not people are not ready to be very open in Baku, in Muslim country, for example. In Russia, they are also they have such strange stamp from Soviet Union. Still, I have been for 7 months now in Russia, and exactly level of consciousness is the marker of finding each other in websites such as spiritual singles and integral singles. It's great to find each other. Now he's coming or I am coming soon to each other, and we have dinner every evening in Skype, 2 hours. Yes, every day.
Wonderful.
That's good.
Thank you for sharing that.
That fills me with joy, Naira, to hear that you have found somebody that you feel so good about, you know, and I hope that continues when you're in person with this person. And of course, that is just the beginning, because eventually each of you turn into real people. And then the fun begins. But it's wonderful to hear you and see you. Thank you.
Me to his father and to his brother, and I introduced him to my mother. So everything looks very, very truthful, and he's very honest and nice person from San Francisco.
Oh, great. Yeah. So just a quick comment on Mark. You know, I see relationship as interbeing. So you meet each other at, you know, where you are, and accept each other. But then there is also interbecoming. You know, you want to have a vision of that you can also love each other for who you will become over time. And this is where Mark said, we're already real persons, but we're also, becoming different people. And if you have a shared path for the interbecoming, I think that makes a relationship. It's both, right? You need to be in the moment and accept each other, and you also challenge each other in a way automatically, if you do it consciously or not, to become a different person. And if that's an agreement that you can make up front, that you love each other for who you are and who you will become, then that's wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
I would like to go into that too, because before you spoke with Martin about the agreements, and also how you will be in the relationship, and if it is possible to make it upfront right at the beginning. And that's exactly what we did. When we decided we want to stay together, we wrote 5 or 6 commitments to our mutual growth, and also our responsibility for our own growth and for our own emotional reactions. And so things happen. They happen. It's not that now it's happiness all the time, but we have these agreements where we agree to, and every Valentine's Day we re-agree to them. We have done it some days ago.
Just a few days ago, yes.
Or we changed, but so far we didn't change. And this gives a guideline to how to be in the moment of conflict or in the moment of difficulty. We have agreed to be in a respectful way to each other, and the other has the allowance, the permission to remind me of that. And I have agreed to take over my responsibility for my own emotions. So if I get angry on what he says, I have agreed to see in myself, what is it? What makes me angry, And so far, the relationship is unfolding in incredible way, which was never with my previous partners, So there's all these little ingredients and I think really I want to tell everybody to look into this book. It says it's only for men, a manual for men, but I don't think it's only for men. So.
Diploma using this book, psychology work. about loneliness. I used information from this book.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody is good.
For everyone.
You started out as you are a man to talk to men, and this is fine because I don't like if men tell me what I shall do. So this is okay. I would like to wrap up and say this is a bit.ly link, a short link for where you can subscribe for the rest of the season. Next week we will have David Amerland to talk about trust. The week afterwards, we will have Cecil Green, who is talking about organizations, about new organizational systems, how you create, the integral people know holacracy, but this is a system which includes personal relationships, which in holacracy is mainly excluded. So it's very interesting what she developed. This is Cecil Green. Then we have Lisa Engels and Kim Carpenter about relationship marketing, let's say. And we will have Martin Shervington, and then we will have a business couple, an Austrian business couple. Okay. We will have. Oh gosh, forgive me, but when you go to the website,
they're all there.
Which one is this? It's the website. Stop the Relationship, thewisdomfactory.de. Then you click on Stop the Relationship, and then you have the whole list of presenters. Okay, and you get it also when you subscribe for that, because this brings you directly to the webinar jam. And next week, we hope to have a wonderful internet and be with you perfectly clear, understandable, visible, and without fear to fall out.
So. Without a big time lag.
And without a big time lag. Right. So we thank you very, very much.